students breathe down your neck. That is the block party.
Hudson finishes off Kentucky.
Purdue gets to celebrate. They take down number 3.
And the Boilers have done it. They advance to the Sweet 16 for the...
Welcome back to the Dig City Podcast, brought to you by Franciscan Health, the official medical provider of Purdue Athletics. I'm Corey Palm. He's head coach Dave Shondell. Coach, 6-0, another successful, first successful road trip of the season, another successful weekend. Right. 3 wins out in Utah. Feels like forever ago when you play Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and you're home by Sunday. It's kind of a shift in schedule that had to be kind of nice to get it out of the way early.
Absolutely, and to be home Sunday morning at 1 o'clock, so much better than having to stay out there and get on a commercial flight, spend another night in Logan, Utah, then drive to Salt Lake City Airport, get on a plane. Who knows if you got to make a connection or not. It's 4 in the afternoon before you get home. So for us to be home at 1 and you have all day Sunday, I was still wired up when I got home about 2 o'clock out there on Lake Freeman. But I watched tape for about 2.5 hours. Wow. And because you're always a little wired up,
sure,
especially if it goes well, and for the most part it did. I was critical at times of how we played, but when you watch it on tape, it always balances out your feelings. If you think you're great, you're not that great.
Yep.
If you think you're bad, you're not that bad. So that's what happened as I went back and watched some tape. The last match was against Utah State, and they play in I say cracker box gym, only saying it's smaller than the average gym that you're going to play in.
Yeah.
Held about 1,500 people. And they had probably 40% of that was students, loud students, very orchestrated and organized in what they were doing. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was great for us to have to deal with that. I think if we play them in a regular gym, we cut through them pretty easily, but we did not. And I thought we were challenged, and at times we were on our heels. But at the end of the day, we persevered, and I think we became stronger because of that.
I want to get into that right now. We'll get into the matches a little bit specifically as we go. But we've seen some scores this year already in the first 6 matches where you win 3-1 or you get the sweep, but it's not that simple. It's maybe you're down 23-20. Yeah. And come back to win the set. We've seen that a couple times where you're up against the wall and you find the team finds what it needs, whether it's an adjustment, whether it's just getting on a roll, whether it's calling the right plays, getting things in the system. Is it sort of make you feel any certain way when your team has risen to the occasion, even in those small moments?
Well, I think that if you've done that a few times, that's going to breed confidence that you can do it again. Mm-hmm. And we have already this year come back from the dead, if you will, in a couple of sets. We did it here against somebody. Yep. We did it against Cal. We did it against Utah. I think we were down 24-19 in the first set against Utah, mm-hmm. and found a way to roll back and tie that one up and go into extra digits and win it. But I think that goes along with the mentality of your team. And you and I both know that this team has a little more competitive spirit than even the average Purdue team mm-hmm. Has had. But you don't want to live your life that way, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
You don't want to walk on the wild side. That event's just going to grab you by the tail end. So we want to make sure that we're doing a better job of securing, the lead and playing well early and staying focused and dealing with people, although we're going to play better competition each week. Our competition has been about all I would want right now, to mm-hmm. be honest with you. I think 5 of the 6 teams we played are top 50 RPI teams. Only one of them probably has dropped outside of that. But now this weekend we get Houston, whose RPI to start the season based on last year was like 13. Mm-hmm. But they are not doing as well as they had probably hoped. They play Texas tonight, which at Texas, so that's going to be a major challenge for them. And then if we win or lose, we're going to play either Kentucky or SMU, and SMU's hosting this event. So we know that's going to be tough, and I think that'll be a great match. SMU and Kentucky, I think will be a tremendous battle in the evening on Friday.
Yeah.
And I have no idea right now who will win that. I got my good buddy Craig Skinner, coaching Kentucky, so I want to, hope he fares well, but I'm not sure who would rather play of the two. I know it's going to be a challenge either way. No matter who we're going to play, both those nights, it's going to be great competition.
For sure. It'd be fine if we had our way, if that match went into the fifth set and maybe was decided like 45-43 in set number 5, play till 1 a.m., something like that. That'd be just fine.
Yeah, late into the evening.
Late into the evening. So you opened up last weekend with Cal.
Yeah.
They take a set off you. It's the only set you drop all weekend. You end up beating the Bears in 4.
Was it the second or the third?
The second.
Was it the
I
second
believe
set?
it was the second set because I believe it was 1-1.
Okay.
Let me
For
verify.
some reason, I thought it was the third, but I've been wrong plenty of times before. But while you're looking, I'll just tell you a little bit about Cal. Cal makes the move with Stanford out of the Pac-12 into the ACC, which is a journey in itself. They were picked out of I'm guessing there's 18 teams in the ACC. I don't know for sure, but I know they were picked below the equator in that preseason poll. They have not been great the last few years. I think this past year they were better than their record might indicate. I think they were 16 and 17, something along those lines. But I do know that they are going to do better than people think because we saw it firsthand. They're physical, they're big, they're hard to score on because their block is really good. They're well coached. They've got a veteran outside hitter that we did a really nice job on, and we really slowed her down. Now the next night against Utah State, she went for 24 kills in a 4-set win. So, but they're going to be a nice team. What'd you find out on them?
They took the third set. You were right, and that was after you'd beaten them 25-12 in the second.
Yeah, because there's always a different feeling you have at the intermission, whether it's 1-1 or 2-0. It's a totally different feel. And then we kind of got a little sloppy in that third, I thought, and then the fourth we handled it pretty easily, if I remember right. But they're a good team and have a lot of players back. Utah did not have as many players back as what Cal did, but Utah has more talent. Utah very physical, great athletes. When I watched them warm up, we did not look as good as they did warming up because they had about 12 people jumping out of the gym and smoking volleyballs over the net. And we've got a skeletal crew because we've had some injuries, and we just don't look that impressive necessarily warming up. But once the match started, then it's just 6-on-6. You can't put 12 people on the floor.
That doesn't matter.
So it's 6-on-6, and they built this lead against us, and fortunately, we came back and made some great plays down the stretch, some tremendous rallies, and then we beat them rather easily in the second set. I think it might have been a 25-14 or something like that affair. And then we're in control the entire third. They came back to make it interesting, but we prevailed in 3, which was a good win. To win 2 over previously Pac-12 teams, not on your home floor, is always a pretty good thing.
Definitely. To put the stats on that, it was 24-20 in the first set, and you reeled off 5 straight points.
Yeah.
And ended up taking it 29-27.
Yeah.
It's one of those rolls that you get on, and that can make all the difference in a weekend. If that one goes bad, who knows how your team responds.
Yeah, volleyball is a funny game, like that. I don't disagree with what you're saying. You never know.
Yeah.
But, if you don't find a way to win certain sets that maybe you don't deserve or it doesn't look like you're going to win, it can change the entire outcome, the entire landscape of your weekend. And so to win that one was certainly big in their gym against a team, as I said, they're talented. And they're going to the Big 12. And they got about as much respect as what Cal did in the ACC. But I will promise you this, that Utah will beat people in the Big 12. They're going to. I think they're an NCAA tournament team. I'll be very, very surprised if they're not. Something that's going to have to go bad for them if they're not an NCAA tournament team.
Yeah. Then you had that quick turnaround, had to hop in a bus, drive north to Logan,
Yep.
which I'm sure is a beautiful drive. I've never been out there. But
well,
man,
it would have been a beautiful drive if it wasn't dark.
That's true. That's true. It's middle of the night, I
But
guess.
once we got there, the next morning and woke up, I took a nice walk, and it's right in the valley, mountains surrounding the entire town of Logan, and a beautiful place, and just really enjoyed ourselves out there.
Get a nice 3-set win over the Aggies. A good way to cap the weekend. Just what did you see specifically in that match from your team that made you feel good about
Well,
things?
just like I talked about earlier, we just toughed it out. Tough environment. Third set in 3 days. Six match in 9 days.
Yeah, true.
And some travel involved, and you're not going to be necessarily at your best. Altitude never bothered us, in my opinion, never bothered me anyway. But I don't think it really bothered our players. It was great out there to see Travis Dorsch and his family. He and his wife are both teaching at Utah State.
Yep.
And what a great job that has to be, because that is absolutely a beautiful place. And their athletic department is really pretty good. Their facilities are great. I just think, wow, you walk around that community, you think, pretty good deal, pretty good gig out here, if that's the situation he's got. So happy that he reached out for some ducats.
That's great.
And able to talk to him after the match, right before we loaded the bus and headed to the airport.
Travis is one of our favorites. He's a very colorful career here at Purdue on the field, All-American as a kicker and a punter, and has gone into a really cool career. We interviewed him on our Ross Aid's Greatest Game podcast last season, and he's got with a psychology background, a very fascinating person to talk to.
Has a son that looks just like him.
Yep.
And the daughter looks like the mom, so I guess that's all good.
That's how it should be. That's absolutely. One thing before we get away from the weekend and take a break, the defense, team defense is really dialed in. The block is out of this world right now. Is that sort of just all your preparation coming to play, or is there something new in the approach this season?
Well, a lot of things I believe are helping us become pretty good defensively, especially this early in the campaign. I think it starts with better serving. I think that we are getting better with a deeper, tough serve. We're finding people that want to be in that rotation of serving, and so they're spending more time to toughen up their serve. We did mix some mid-zone serves in as well that I thought were effective at times. But mostly it's just relentless attitude. Our middles, who are in most of the time, I'll talk primarily about Raven and Lourdes, okay? They are playing their tails off. When you watch on tape, you can tell how hard your middles are playing. I mean, it's not hard.
Yeah.
They're either playing hard or they're not. And these guys are playing hard. They want to block balls. They take great pride in that. I remember last year, about this time of the year, maybe a week or two later, I pulled out, video of Nebraska, and we took our entire team and we watched Nebraska's blocking for about a half hour, because I thought they were the best blocking team, or at least functional blocking team that I had seen that year, and that helped us. It really helped us. We got better after watching that film. And so, but I think it's just been a continuation ever since then. That we're working really hard. Our pin blockers, our right side people, are Kenna Woolard and Taylor Anderson, the setter, and they set a really good block. I mean, they're both 6'1" in that range, but they play bigger than that. They got long arms, they jump well, they got pretty good technique. Eva's a really good blocker and getting better. Chloe is somebody who's a little smaller, but takes a lot of pride in what she's doing. And she, I think, had maybe 3 stuff blocks against Utah State in our last match, which, again, stuff blocking helps stuff blocking.
Yeah.
Okay, success breeds success. Once you go up and you get a couple of them, you're a lot better than you were before. Okay, you're feeling good about yourself. It's like everything else in life. And so I think that's really good. And then our defense is backcourt defense slowly getting better. I mean, I watched a lot of that on tape last night and saw a lot of what I call flies in the ointment.
Okay.
That girls don't know what that means, and maybe I don't either. But We'll point some of that stuff out to them today before we get too far into this week, so we can work on it a little bit in practice. But still a lot of unnecessary movement from our players. I'd like to teach that you're set on contact, not necessarily set in like a batter is in the batter's box,
Sure.
but that you've moved, and you got to your spot, but then you have both feet down light and quick onto the floor before the ball is contacted, so that you can go any direction you have to go. And what happens is it's a natural phenomenon. If we were to pull up film right now on that nice Sony TV right there you've got, and we would stop the film or the tape. My wife gives me a hard time when I say tape or film.
It's been a bit since it was
Yeah.
filmed. It hadn't been taped in a while either.
But
So.
right when that person, just before there's just daylight, before they contact the ball, freeze it.
Mhm.
I like to say freeze it, like Dick Vitale did. And you'll see people will just be starting to make a big move, or they'll be in the air making a move, taking a big jump to the left, taking a big jump forward. Now, if you're going exactly where the ball is going to go to, you got a chance to make the play.
Mhm.
Otherwise, you're not making the play. And so I'm talking about making smart, simple moves, not big, aggressive defensive moves. Smart, simple moves to where we see it, we know what our job is, we make the adjustment, our feet are set before contact, we can go to the floor, we can get our hands up in the air, we can drive whatever direction we need to. So I still have a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
But that's something we'll call to their attention again today, because about every week you got to do that.
It's just
You would-
consistency.
You would think with players that have been playing for a long time, and they've heard that a lot in our gym, that would become a pretty common theme. And I see some improvement in a few of them, but we have to get better at that.
Yeah. One last note: Taylor Anderson, setter of the week in the Big Ten, second week in a row, 2 out of 2 with conference awards with Taylor this week and Eva last week. We're going to take a break, talk a little bit more about this weekend down in Dallas, and then go a little bit deeper on Coach's coaching philosophy when we come back. The Dig City Podcast is brought to you by Franciscan Health, the official medical provider of Purdue Athletics. At Franciscan, we are inspiring health. Now back to the show. Head down to Dallas to play 2 matches in the Moody Center at campus of
I think it's
Southern.
Moody Coliseum.
Moody
I found that out.
Coliseum.
One thing I did learn since last week, it's the Moody Coliseum.
The Moody Coliseum on the campus.
I think that's where basketball plays.
Okay.
In that same venue, which would be pretty happening place on a basketball night.
No doubt.
It holds about 8,000, I think, maybe 8,200.
I imagine it'll be a happening place this weekend as well. SMU's a team that I tell some colleagues around here, I think they're a sleeping giant in a lot of sports. There's so much money around that university, and they're self-funding their move to the ACC, and they want to be a player again, and we're seeing it in volleyball. They should probably be ranked. They just swept Baylor again last night, another top 20 win.
I did have them in the top 25. It was toward the tail end of it, because after they beat Nebraska, I think they stubbed their toe on LMU.
They did, in 5.
Which was a little surprising. So that kind of, I think, eliminated the opportunity for a lot of our pollsters to put them in the top 25. But if you're beating Nebraska 3-0 the way they did and looked like they looked, I watched every minute of that match. They're clearly a top 25 team.
Yeah.
And then they bounced back and they beat Baylor. And Baylor had gone 5 with, I think, both Minnesota and Wisconsin in the Big East or Big 10, Big 12 tournament last weekend. So, very, very impressed with SMU. And as I mentioned, I think they and Kentucky are going to have a real brouhaha.
Should be good. Kentucky with a couple losses, but they're both the top 10
losses,
Big Ten teams this year. Nebraska and Penn State. And, of course, you take on the Houston Cougars on Friday. They are 3-1 as well on the year, with a 5-set loss to Louisiana as their only mark.
Yeah, and I don't know when Louisiana became Louisiana.
Yeah.
Was it something else before that? I don't remember ever having
It used to be Louisiana Lafayette.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
they
That's what I
just
thought,
changed
but,
branding.
Well, that was a good change for them. You go from alphabet school to this name of your state.
Yeah.
That's a great move for them.
Own the Raging Cajuns there
Yeah.
is one of the best nicknames in sports, too. You mentioned Houston takes on Texas tonight, so
Right.
Still an outcome to be added to the record before you see them on Friday.
Well, some tape or film to look at for us before You know, we end up playing those guys. I don't know if we have a system called volumetrics. Every university in the country is on it. A lot of club teams are actually on it, and it tapes, films. What's the right word? Give me the right word.
Films. Yeah, records.
So records. Every match is recorded, and then this group, but I think mostly in Europe, they break it all down.
Okay.
And it's my understanding, I think this would be AI, maybe. It's all done without people doing it.
Without any sort of data entry.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's what I'm being told.
Okay.
My guy, Michael Burrell.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Analytics himself, who's got connections. A guy named Giuseppe is the guy that runs all this.
Okay.
And but even with it all being artificially done, or whatever you call that, okay, you're the technology guy. You got the computer today. It's still sometimes they don't get it done in time.
Okay.
Like we played Utah State on Saturday. They played on Saturday. We never got that tape broken down
Okay.
to look at. Now, I don't know if Utah State got our tape broken down or not. I wasn't looking for that. But anyway, so we'll see if that stuff actually gets broken down. But it's an interesting concept.
Yeah.
A guy like you'd have to go crazy about that. It just, the way that I mean, they think of all the matches. You know, you got this, just in Division I, you've got 342 schools. They're all playing 2 or 3 matches a weekend. And somehow those have all got to be, you know, sent, broken down, and recorded. Somebody will show you how. You got all the information. I can let's say I want to look at the right side hitter from Houston. Okay, I get on there. I find her name. I find attacking. I hit the attacking. It will just show in like 7-second segments every ball she attacks.
Okay.
First one, second one, third one, fourth one. So we see what they're doing. Most important thing for me is, because I'm a defensive guy primarily, is that I'll watch their offense by rotation. So we'll see how they line up in their rotation, who's passing serve, how good their serve receivers are based on watching. And you watch every rotation one after another in that same serve receive pattern. Okay. And then you get an idea after watching that what they like, who they like to set the ball to, and what they like to run, what the hitters are running out of each of those rotations. And to do that now compared to what it used to be like, somebody had to do that. It had to be shipped. We were mailing those things, and then somebody would take it, and then they'd have to do it. Okay, and it was difficult.
It's a brave new world out there.
It is. I guess that's what they're telling me.
Yeah,
that's what they're telling me.
You got to keep up. Well, you know, that kind of eases our way into what I wanted to talk about too. You've been coaching for a little while.
Yeah,
things have changed a lot in the last 5 years. Things have changed a lot in the last 20 years.
On the periphery,
okay, there's
been a lot of change. I don't know the nuts and bolts of coaching are that much different. There definitely are a lot of, things we just talked about, you know, you talk about the portal, you talk about NIL. Yeah, those things are pretty solid things you're going to have to deal with. You're going to have to adjust the way you operate to be successful with that. But as far as coaching volleyball and dealing with your athletes, athletes are a little bit different because they have to be, because of everything that's going on around them and what they can and cannot do. But I don't think the coaching is that much different than what it was when I started back in 1980.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Why'd you get into coaching?
Well, I came from a family that was pretty much...
It's in the blood.
Something that looked like it was a pretty enjoyable job. My dad was at Ball State University. He was a men's volleyball coach at Ball State. And he would load us up in the vans, or back then they called them limousines. Ball State had this big limousine that seated about 14, 15 people. So I don't know how many seats it had, and I don't think it's still around. And so the players never liked to see my brother Steve and I coming, because that meant that much less room for them. But my dad took us to every trip.
Okay.
Every trip. Then eventually put us in vans, and we still took up room. As the older we got, the more room we took up. So I got to watch my father, who was just an incredible role model, and just loved life and loved teaching and loved coaching, and just loved being around his athletes, and then teaching his family all the same type of things. And I was I played all the different sports growing up, because my dad was a physical education instructor and professor, and he felt like he needed to give us all the help at all these different things, swimming, tennis, whatever, badminton. In high school, I played baseball, basketball, football, and volleyball.
Okay.
And enjoyed all those things quite a bit.
So you grow up in the game. I assume, when you talk about role models and philosophy, it's Dr. Don first and foremost that shaped who you are as a man, as a coach, as an educator. What other influences have you had?
Oh, great question. I know for sure, and this people who know my family would not be surprised by this. My mom was as big of an influence on me as my dad. My mom was a brilliant woman. She passed away with pancreatic cancer back in around 2010, I believe.
Okay.
Same time Jacqueline Hart's dad had that episode with cancer, and we were playing down at Austin, Texas, and had a chance to go to the Final Four, and she pulls a hamstring off her bone down there, which kind of limits her opportunity to play. But my mom was a teacher, educator, musician. That just was as prim and proper and professional as you could be. Taught me how to write, and how I should act, and she just taught me the nice way. My dad taught me with a little more force on how I should act. But having both those people as your parents was, if we weren't pretty good at something, it was our own fault. Okay, really good parenting. But so those two, I think, were the people that shaped me more than anybody. But my brother Steve, who was at Burris for some 35 years coaching girls volleyball there, is the most successful coach in the history of Indiana high school sports,
right.
in any sport, not just volleyball. 22, I think, state championships and a win-loss record that is unbelievable. But he was 3.5 years older than I was, okay? So he was a senior when I was a freshman in high school. And I just always followed him around. I got a chance to learn from him, whether it was how to play baseball, football, whatever it was, I just kind of followed him around, and he liked to tease me a lot. I remember that, but I didn't bother me that much. But then he went to Ball State and played volleyball for my dad. I went to Ball State and played volleyball for my dad, as did my younger brother John. We all kind of did the same thing. And then Steve got this job at Burris as a teacher and a coach, and then just poured his heart and soul into teaching and coaching, and loved it, just like my dad did, just like my mom did. And I thought, well, why would you do? I really never thought about it. It wasn't like I sat down one time with my parents and said, "What do you want to do?" No, this just seemed like the right thing. And being at Ball State, which is renowned for its teaching education, I got off to a good start and was just surrounded by so many people, Corey, that were great at what they did in the world of education. My dad's on the staff at Ball State. It's a teacher's college in Muncie, Indiana. So whether I was at church, I was surrounded by those kind of people. If I was at a ball game, I was surrounded by those kind of people. And I went to Muncie Northside High School, which really I thought had incredible teachers. And so we got that great educational base. So I just think there were so many people there that helped me. But when you get down to looking out a little bit wider than that, there are a couple of people close to home that really made a difference for me. Wes Lyon, who was coach at Muncie Southside, but he and I both ran the Munciana volleyball program for a long time together. And I learned just an awful lot from Wes as well. And there were some other high school coaches that I gained that kind of knowledge from. But at the college level, there was like Mick Haley, who played for my dad at Ball State, was very visible. Even when he was coaching at USC or at Texas, he was always back at Ball State.
Okay.
He was always in communication with my dad and our family and would visit. Learned a lot from Mick. I mean, Mick was one of the true professionals of the game early on. But as far as style and things like that, I think Mike Hebert, who was at Illinois for a long time, started at Pitt.
Okay.
Again, he's one of these pioneers of the game.
I remember him at Illinois.
Started at Pitt,
Okay.
went to Illinois, then went to Minnesota. Leveraged that Illinois job, and they didn't want to take care of him over there, and so Minnesota said, we'll bring you on, and then he went to the Final Four about 4 times, okay, and had great teams there. But what I always liked about Mike Hebert was, one, he's a funny guy and a great guy, but he would look at his talent every year and figure out how to put that team on the floor, what systems to run. He didn't care what anybody else was doing. Wasn't like, let's follow what UCLA's doing.
Yeah.
Okay, but this is the talent that I've got. What systems can I run? How can I position these players to do it differently? And that's kind of how I feel like I've always been. You're a ball coach, and I grew up coaching basketball and baseball and softball and different things, okay? But in volleyball, I think you have that opportunity to take your team and figure out how can we take this group and find the best players that we've got in this group and put them on the floor and go to war and be successful and compete at the highest level. And Mike Hebert was a guy that always did that. So, I know that there are some others. I had, some really good coaches back when I was in school. As a matter of fact, my middle school baseball coach is a guy that if somebody would ask me who made the biggest impact on you outside your family, it would be Tim Thompson.
Okay.
And he was like a Ball State grad student. And he was coaching a bunch of clowns from Storr Middle School. And but he encouraged us to love playing baseball. We loved playing baseball. I couldn't wait to get to practice. We'd practice for 4 hours. This isn't one of those stories. Well, at least the infielders would be there for an hour extra and just fielding ground balls. And if we made an error, we went back to the very beginning. So he had this routine. And sometimes we were there for an hour. Sometimes we got out in half an hour. But he was just a guy that really let you be yourself and encouraged a lot of bench jockeying back even at the middle school ages. But that was a guy that I really loved and cared about. And he's passed on now, but he was a tremendous coach for young kids.
It's so awesome to hear you talk about your influences and to see how each piece of that.
I always liked coaches that allowed you to enjoy what you were doing and made it fun. Coaches that don't want to make it fun, and sometimes I look at myself and I wonder, am I making this fun or am I making it difficult for everybody? Because at this level, it's a game, but it's a little more than a game.
It's different,
sometimes.
right?
And you have pressure, they have pressure, and sometimes you got to just pull back and say, wait a minute, let's realize we're here to have fun. And I told him we were in a meeting out in Utah, and I remember just stopping there and I said, hey, we can't play with a fear of losing. We're going to get beat. We absolutely are going to get beat this year. Everybody is, okay? But if you play with that fear of losing, you can't be free and relaxed and be confident and have fun, you're going to lose a lot more. And so that was one of the messages I remember sending, because I think I know when I played, when I was having fun, being myself, I felt like I was the best version of myself.
Yeah. I think it's a hard question to ask current student athletes, but you see it in the alumni days and the turnouts that you get there, the relationships that you have with former players who come back and speak glowingly.
It's a little bit harder, and my wife and I have talked about this before. When you're coaching women, you don't have those same kind of relationships long term that you might have if you're coaching men. Okay, it's just different, and it probably should be. Okay, but it's just a little bit different. We certainly have great relationships with the people that have played here. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
And I love to have them come back, and I love to communicate. I love to see them at tournaments, whether their kids are playing or whether they're coaching club or we go out somewhere and they show up. It's phenomenal. It's great. But it's not quite the same. I remember I was at Daleville coaching baseball and basketball, and there I've got some incredible relationships with guys that were. This is a long time ago. This was 1981 to 1988.
Okay.
And so a little closer to my age too.
True.
But it's just the way it is. But we recruit great people at Purdue that do great things and high character people. So it's great to stay in touch with them the best we can.
It is. It's so rewarding to see them go on and do great things in life beyond sometimes inside volleyball, sometimes usually beyond volleyball, and that connection is so important. Well, this has been fun.
Yeah.
We're going to do some more of this throughout the season.
I hope we can hold up through all of it. But no, I appreciate that and getting a chance to talk about some of those people. I had people when I was teaching that made a big difference in my life. There was a guy, Chuck Childers was my principal when I was at Northside Middle School for about 13 years. That taught me how to be a little more professional than what I was.
Okay.
And how you present things to people. And he was tough. He was a tough principal. He comes to about 5 or 6 of our matches every year.
Oh, still, okay.
Loves Purdue volleyball.
That's great.
And so, once you're not working for him anymore, everything changes a little bit. Perspectives are a little bit different. But no, Don Fields, and the guy that was my baseball coach in high school and also an assistant principal for me, he means a lot to me as well. There's just a lot of them I'm sure I forgot about, way too many.
We'll pick them up down the road.
Yeah.
Good luck down in Dallas, and we'll
Thank you.
talk next week.
Boiler up.
Boiler up.